Welcome. You're listening to the Blue Water Crypto Podcast, where founder Jon Penkert is going to bring clarity to crypto and Bitcoin. Now, mind you, this show is for educational and entertainment purposes only. This is not financial advice. Our goal is to empower you with the knowledge to help you build confidence in your financial and digital assets. Jon, it's so good to see you again. So can you tell your audience what exactly encouraged you to create what you've created with crypto and Bitcoin? What is your knowledge base of this, and why did you start off on this mission to help others understand?
First of all, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be talking to the audience about cryptocurrency. It's an exciting industry, exciting time to be looking at digital assets. Literally, cryptocurrency is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for families to take advantage of what I think is a one-time generational wealth transfer that's going to happen. It's really happening all around us, and it's going to give people an opportunity really to connect with assets that's going to create financial freedom for them in the future.
So how have these, now that we're closer to the end of 2025, laws are changing now, right? And it's hard to kind of differentiate between what laws are in reference to crypto coin, to Bitcoin. What are you providing your audience right now? What need did you feel like you needed to fill?
From an education perspective, for the first time in 15 years, we have legitimacy. Bitcoin's been around for 15 years, but it's considered an unregulated security. Right. It's really the wild, wild west. It can be very dangerous for investors. People don't know how to handle their wallets. Is it a hot wallet or a cold wallet? Where do I put the cryptocurrency? How do I buy the cryptocurrency? How do I get KYC'd? Very difficult to try to navigate these waters. And today, as we have a new administration, all of the laws are being passed to make this a seamless opportunity for people to allocate literal wealth into this space. Now, cryptocurrencies are considered a digital one asset on the balance sheets of the banks.
Wow. And so going through your education of crypto and Bitcoin and all of the changes that are happening, through your learning of it, did you find that there were issues in the finite details of how to go about acquiring cryptocurrency and how to utilize it?
As an unregulated asset, really the sky was the limit. There was no standards. Very confusing. It didn't matter if you were super educated or uneducated. It really was a comedy of errors sometimes, and sometimes it was a tragedy because people literally could lose their entire investment capital.
Wow, that's incredible and scary, very scary. So having somebody that has really devoted themselves to educating their audience and themselves on it on a daily basis is almost imperative with the digital world we're moving into more and more each day, would you say?
Yeah, these technologies are exciting because of the advent of AI and what's happening with AI and technologies. We're breaking new ground in medicine. We're breaking new ground in energy. We're breaking new ground in financial assets. So every aspect of the human existence is getting an upgrade. And so that's going to require an upgrade from fiat currencies, which are kind of outdated. They've been around for over 100 years, and we're inflating them away. The government's spending money as fast as they can. Now to the digital age, and what our current administration is calling Bitcoin is digital gold. Just like as a person, you'd want to acquire as much gold as you can. Today in the digital asset world, you want to get as much Bitcoin as you can. Interesting.
It's a good comparison too, because I feel like anyone that comes across gold, they really value it now, right? Is crypto going to be the same way? Is it really going to be the new evolution of how we exchange goods and services?
When you think about all of the gold that's been mined throughout history, you have hundreds of thousands of tons of gold that are available, and yet it's still rare and still highly valued. But think about Bitcoin. Bitcoin has 21 million Bitcoins. That's it. There is no more. No more will be mined. And it's really one of the rarest things on the planet. And if you think about it, every millionaire in the world, if they wanted just one Bitcoin, couldn't have one because there's not enough. So the scarcity alone is something that's going to create tremendous upside potential. And for my audience specifically, is you want to get as much Bitcoin as you can get.
Wow. It's incredible to know that it's already scarce and we haven't had a mass change in cryptocurrency, or maybe we have, it's just a different area of the world that's learning how to use it quicker than others? Is that?
Well, I think the biggest thing is having it adopted as a medium of transfer, a currency specifically, even though it's a technology, it's not a currency. The shocking thing is that Bitcoin actually became valuable enough for the first transaction, which was to buy a couple of pizzas, right? The fact that Bitcoin was worth $100 and $1,000 was the miracle. But once it established itself as a legitimate medium of exchange, that's where some of the brightest people on the planet realized, it's scarce and we need to start collecting it. And by the way, 95% of Bitcoin is already held by the major institutions. The major financial institutions like BlackRock, the largest financial asset manager in the world, they're the number 2 holder of Bitcoin. Fidelity and Vanguard, large mutual fund companies, have major positions in Bitcoin. So when the audience looks at that and realizes that 95% is held by the institutions and major governments around the world, you realize, hey, wait a minute, there's really not much left for us to acquire.
Right. You say when the audience realizes that, but with the crypto education space is full right now of YouTubers, influencers, hype-driven voices. How does Blue Water Crypto differentiate itself from those competitors? It's hard to differentiate when listening to those YouTubers what's really going on.
So in today's world, it's really hard to know where you're getting your information from. And a lot of times people on YouTube specifically, all they're doing is recounting what's going on in the news, right? What's the modern issue? What's the point of the day? What's the headline? They're looking just to grab what's considered oftentimes clickbait, right? Click on my channel, that's how I make money. That's not my goal. My goal is to really dig deep and differentiate how people can take advantage of this major wealth transfer that we're talking about and allocate an appropriate amount of assets to what we think is again, it's a tier 1 asset on the bank's balance sheet. The laws are changing to be pro-investment in cryptos. They're starting to fund ETFs. Those regulations are going to be fully embraced by the fourth quarter of 2025, and people will begin to allocate resources in ETFs. And I think what they really want to do is hold some Bitcoin, right? Have it in their own possession. So, my job is to, yes, help you navigate the news and understand what's going on in the headlines, but more than that, how do you protect your family?
That's a very good point. With any, so are you actually investing for your audience, or are you educating?
Yeah, I'm strictly educating. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not going to invest your money. I'm not going to tell you to, send me your investment portfolio and here's what I'm going to do with your capital. I empower you to take control of your family assets, invest it in the way that you've deem necessary or appropriate. But just understand, the best minds on Wall Street, they look at Bitcoin and they don't look at it that, Bitcoin went from 10,000 to 100. They look at Bitcoin and say, by 2025, it's probably going to be 1 million before it gets to 2 million.
Wow. And are you in agreement with that hypothesis?
Yeah, I 100% agree with the philosophy. Probably the number 1 financial guru out of Wall Street is a guy named Michael Saylor. And he has a philosophy, and he says, there's 21 million Bitcoin, and the next 21 years, each of them should ultimately be worth $21 million a piece. And so I think that's a really good long-term objective. But in the short term, I believe that Bitcoin will easily get to $1 million, in the next maybe 5-6 years. But just remember that when it hits 1 million, that's on its way to 2 million.
Wow. So what are you projecting? Your projection specifically, Blue Water Cryptos, for the next 5 years for crypto in your interpretation or opinion?
I think people just need to stay the course, right? If I say, or let's say the smart minds on Wall Street say, we're going to have $1 million Bitcoin price by 2030. Is it going to be 1 million? Probably not. Maybe 900,000, maybe 1.2 million. But crypto is very volatile. You can have it at 60,000 Bitcoin, and then all of a sudden it drops down to 15. That volatility is very difficult for people. So I think you need to realize that there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be pullbacks, and then there's going to be huge runs. And so you want to keep your eye on the prize, and that's that 2030. By Christmas in 2030, you're going to be really close to that $1 million mark.
Which is always something someone wants to have, right? $1 million mark, that would be amazing to cross. So I want to get a little more in detail on why Blue Water Crypto is doing what it's doing, right? you've made your website and the creation of your website a membership only. Why is that?
Most of my experience in crypto was pre-COVID. And then when COVID hit, that turned the world upside down. A friend of mine called me and said, hey, we have something called a DAO. And I didn't know what that was, a DAO, Decentralized Autonomous Organization. As I did research on it, the Robert Kiyosaki organization, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, they did a piece on DAOs, the guy that wrote the book, How to DAO. And after analyzing that, they came to the conclusion that a DAO, the DAO market, blockchain technology, it's a $10 trillion industry that nobody knows anything about. That was attractive to me. So I joined a DAO. It's a private membership. It's the very best way to raise capital globally. And that got me back in the crypto game and start looking into what a DAO is. And then I saw a gap in the members getting involved in the DAO. Didn't understand cryptocurrency, didn't understand Bitcoin, didn't understand why to hold it. They just
knew they should have it, right?
Yeah, they joined the organization. So what has happened now is Blue Water Crypto is here to help educate and bring people along on the journey who they want to get. Some want to be in the DAO, some don't, but they really want to have crypto for their families.
Right. At least kind of know how to utilize it, right? That's kind of what you're helping with at the end of the day.
How do I acquire it? Like, how do I get it? Can I use my current investment capital? Can I use my retirement money? What about Social Security? How do I get capital into cryptos? And today with the legislation, it's more and more legitimate.
And that's exciting, right? For the world, would you say, or for those $1 million folks out there, would you say it's exciting for the average day-to-day person going to work?
I think it can be exciting. One of the things, the phrases that I've coined is called a Bitcoin penny.
Okay.
To get people to collect Bitcoin pennies. When I was a kid, I used to collect wheat pennies.
Oh,
right?
yes, I remember.
So people say, well, what's a penny? Well, it's 0.01% of a Bitcoin. Well, if Bitcoin's $110,000, well, then a penny would be about $1,100. So that's a reasonable goal. Yeah, I try to get people to collect Bitcoin pennies on the journey, and I teach them how to their daily, weekly, and monthly activities. They can begin to create their a family treasury, a family reserve, just like the crypto reserves the United States government's trying to create, and start doing it by collecting Bitcoin pennies.
That is really exciting. And the education process that you've gone through gives me a lot of faith and really a lot of trust in what you've delivered. I know we've gone over tons of content of what you've learned. Probably one of the most brilliant people I've ever met. But for the average person, it's a lot to take in. But once you get it, it seems like you get it. The way you explained it and helped invite me to the webinars that you were hosting and things like that, it really gave me a lot of clarity and trust and how to go about doing it. Everybody likes a step-by-step, right?
Yeah, and you know what I love about it? I think that wisdom oftentimes is in the simplicity of a thing. And today it's very simple to take just $100 and open up an account, and you can buy $100 worth of Bitcoin. You can get on a recurring order where you're putting $10 a week in Bitcoin. And so they made it very easy today to dip your toe in, get involved in crypto, and start picking up those Bitcoin pennies.
That's a good point. So what would you say if someone were to put, say, $10 of crypto in it every day for 5 years? What do you think that would allocate to?
So what I tell people, as a tier one asset for the banks, what they don't realize right now is that you're going to be able to lend against Bitcoin. You'll never have to sell Bitcoin because you're going to actually make money on Bitcoin. And so I tell people, look, if you put $1,000 in Bitcoin today, that's your annual salary by 2030. What does that mean? That means the income that you'll be able to make as Bitcoin appreciates by 2030 will be about $1,000 a year. So how much do you want to pay yourself?
Wow. When it comes to paying me, it sounds a little more flexible, right? So Blue Water Crypto isn't just about courses and teaching. This DAO, can you elaborate a little more on that? DAO power fundraising and collective decision making is what it's called. So
it's a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization.
Okay.
And I want you to think about global fundraising and fundraising mechanisms. There's a lot of great charities out there, but their expense ratios are very high. Sometimes only 50 cents or 40 cents or 30 cents on the dollar goes towards their capital projects.
Wow.
Well, today with the use of smart contracts and blockchain technology, 100% of the capital can go towards your project because you don't have any employees, you don't have any expenses, there's no board of directors. No one is sharing in the cost of raising the capital. So the 100% of the capital can be allocated, therefore, to the fund. And so it's perfectly suited. It's not for everybody. Don't go out and get rid of your LLCs and create a DAO. But because of currency, different currencies and different valuations, it is the very best way to raise capital globally. So think of it like a global GoFundMe.
Wow, that's a good way to put it. There's no exchange rate or anything like that, right? That might be the best part of it, I think. So looking ahead, what's your ultimate vision for Blue Water Crypto? Where are you headed in the next 5 years? Where do you want to be in the next 5 years for your audience, your members that you have right now? What do you want to do?
So in life, timing is very important. Mm-hmm. And right now, you have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to acquire Bitcoin, to build your crypto reserves. So I have a goal. My goal is to get 1,000 people that are collecting Bitcoin pennies. And we need to get that done sooner than later, right? By 2030, you won't be picking up many Bitcoin pennies.
Wow. And I was going to ask that to be my next question is, what if someone chooses not to educate themselves on crypto or learn or invest in crypto? What do you think could be the downfall for them versus people that are?
Well, I think you're subjecting yourself in the world that we live in, high debt, fiat currency, government's $40 trillion a year in debt, $40 trillion in debt with $5 trillion in deficit spending, $80 trillion of unfunded liabilities. You're by keeping capital in paper assets, you're really risking the valuation, the purchasing power to be inflated away. And that's what I believe they're doing. They're inflating away the value of your fiat currency. Or you can take your money and you can put it in gold and silver. Mm-hmm. And, you put it in gold and silver. I think it's a great investment. I think you could double or triple your money. Mm-hmm. But I think Bitcoin at 100,000 that goes to $1 million, that's a 10x return. And so I think there are cryptos that'll get you 20, 25x. Bitcoin 10x in the next 5 years, I think is reasonable.
So for people that are very unfamiliar with crypto and Bitcoin, there are different types of crypto coin, correct?
Correct.
How many different types, and how do you know which one is going to help my parents, me at the end of the day?
Yeah, so with cryptocurrencies, there's thousands. And I believe at some point it'll come a time where your public utility or your work case for the coin will really determine valuation. My opinion, 99% of them are going to be flatlined. They're not really going to be worth anything. So part of the value that I bring is to identify the cryptocurrencies that are being allocated to the ETFs, right? So the major brokerages are going to create ETFs with the major coins like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, XRP, Hedera, to name a few.
Wow.
And those are the ones that I want to keep people focused on. Keep your capital in the ones that are already designed by the major brokerage houses to go up in value. You don't have to get rich quick. You don't have to get 1,000x. That's really a pump and dump, and that's really where people get hurt is by chasing get rich quick. You don't need to do that. Just you need to fundamentally get involved in the currencies that are already accepted. The regulations are already out there. The standards have already been created, and they're going to go up. And so that's where I believe people should reasonably, put your investment capital if you want to invest in cryptos.
Absolutely. And after you have explained it to me multiple times, I don't see any way you could go with this digital age and, like you said, AI and everything developing. I went to a restaurant the other day, and it was a new restaurant, and they said there's no cash allowed. So that gave me that inkling. You popped in my head, this is really happening. It's just happening slowly to the outside perspective, would you say?
Yeah, I took my kids to a high school championship football game, and they didn't take cash, and all I had was cash. Mm-hmm. And so that was a difficult transition. That was an aha moment for me to realize that, we're pretty much digital already. Mm-hmm. One of our final frontiers of freedom, I think, is the cash in your pocket. But I think that by 2030, we could be in that actual cashless society that people talk about where, if you don't have digital assets and a digital ID and biometrics, all of these things are going to become popular, which really is going to help protect the value of your cryptocurrencies and your investment capital, whatever it's in. So that's where they're going. I don't think you can stop it, but I think you can take advantage of the biggest trend in my lifetime.
That's amazing. And to that point, you are just now launching Blue Water Crypto, your business name, but you've been retired doing this education on cryptocurrency for how long?
Oh man, I started 10 years ago, right? When I first moved to Dallas, we started an altcoin business and launched an altcoin. It was a lot of fun. Back then we were mining this coin for 10 cents and ended up going up to $2, right? That's what Bitcoin was $500 a Bitcoin. So great opportunities, met a lot of great people. Back then you'd go to conventions and there'd only be a couple hundred people. And it's kind of the who's who today of who's in crypto. But back then, you had access to them. It was a lot of fun. And like I said, I've been doing this about 10 years. So I had a lot of success.
Wow, that's incredible. Do you think that there's anyone else comparable out there who's really educating on crypto like you are? And for people who aren't quite ready to become a member, when they go to your webpage, can they view or educate themselves on the content you have on your website without becoming a member at first, just so they know? And, I want to know deep in my stomach, you're legitimate, right?
Right. So that's a lot of what we're trying to do now to build that out. We're getting information in people's hands so they can make a good decision, giving them a lot of content, time to look at. That's where we're creating this library of podcasts, library of information, current events, what's going on, to make them comfortable with what Blue Water Crypto is all about. It's really about educating you to create your own financial freedom through developing your own crypto reserves. And if you want, private one-on-one time that a lot of our private members have taken advantage of, there's a lot of reasons to do that. We'll welcome you as a private member, which gives you access to, a whole bunch of more information and advantages in education.
And consistent education, right? You have weekly meetings, I believe you mentioned. So as you become a member, you can really log into those at any point in time and rewatch them and really get the knowledge no one else has. Would you say?
Yeah. So what has happened? It started really small, where we just do Zoom calls and people aren't always available, and then we have to send them out. And it got really difficult on my time, to try to get in front of as many people that had so many questions. So we're just trying to create an environment where a one-stop shop where everybody can go in and check out the information, check out the current news and what's going on and what we're seeing, because the regulations are changing really fast. The industry is changing fast. There's a lot of really good experts out there, but there's a lot of Me Too people that have popped up. So, I list the top advisors in the space, which I don't think I'm a top advisor, but people like Michael Saylor, and there are several, Kathy Wood, Robert Kiyosaki. There's several people that I think are really good advisors, and they have your best interest at heart. And, I list those so people have good resources, not just me, to get crypto information.
And that's what gives me so much trust in how you advise me on what's going on in the market. Not so much advising me on what to invest, but what's really happening right now. You have no really monetary gain other than what you've already done with your own cryptocurrency, if you did any. But you really are out here to help people. You've been through corporate America how many times?
Oh, I've got a 25-year Fortune 500 background, yeah.
And you've developed and really launched businesses into success,
yes.
Right? So at the end of the day, your knowledge and education is almost invaluable, because you've been through, I think, every aspect of every single one of these listeners out here, right? From entrepreneur to Fortune 500 business.
Yeah, I've worked for some of the biggest Fortune 100 companies. Very successful track record. And I've also launched a couple of ventures where we've done, $100 million a year in revenue. So I've done that a few times. So I've been able to wear a lot of hats as an entrepreneur, seen a lot of things come and go. Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies was something that I identified early as I thought it was the next big wave. But like I said, when COVID hit, that kind of shut everything down, shut a lot of business down, shut down a lot of financial opportunities, not just in cryptocurrency, but stock market. And, we had very high levels of unemployment. We had a lot of problems with small businesses were going out of business because of regulation. And it was a very scary time for Americans.
Yes, it is very much so. Well, then and now. Well, I think with each generation, you have a certain fear, right? Change is never comfortable, but it's going to happen. Life keeps moving, right? So why not educate yourself, to your point, on where it's moving towards?
I think that's the hardest thing Crypto's had a bad rap for the last 15 years because it was unregulated. So if you went to your stockbroker, your private banker, your real estate agent, your insurance agent, they have a fiduciary obligation to keep you away from unregistered securities, which was the crypto space. So it was always the backwards wearing baseball cap guy with tennis shoes in his garage selling cryptos or mining cryptos. And it didn't have a lot of credibility, even though it has proven to be the very best investment someone could make. And so now it's really coming to the forefront. When you have an entire administration that is moving, in the crypto space to billions of dollars, the last several months, it's something that the average American needs to really stand up and take a look at, because again, this is a timing play. If you blink, your cryptos are going to be, or especially Bitcoin's going to be gone.
And if that happens, then what happens to the consumer or the citizen that hasn't invested in it?
Well, I think in terms of, I don't want to promote fear and,
absolutely
if you
not.
In,
but I mean, at the end of the day, I'm that common person, right? I want to know.
Well, I think I tell people all the time, you can take $100 and you can put it in your mattress, right?
Very true.
A year from now, inflation, it'll probably only have about $90 worth of purchasing power. Same $100 you could take and buy gold. And let's say in the next 3 to 5 years, it doubles or triples. But that same $100, if you put it in Bitcoin, it could go from 100 to 1,000 or maybe 2,000. So the upside potential with limited risk, I think the risk to reward is better in Bitcoin than anything. I think that's proven if you look at some of Michael Saylor's research and his work. And I think that the best place to start allocating capital, especially if you're young, is in your own Bitcoin treasury.
Would you say 18 years and older?
Any age.
Any age. Start now, just whenever you can, right?
Yeah.
Well, if there's one thing you want your listeners to hear today with the current climate going on and all of the crypto news right now, what this week would you like for your listeners to really understand or be aware of?
So I think the biggest thing is to embrace what the potential is for Bitcoin, what it can do. It's life-changing. It's going to change your life financially. And today, actually, I launched with my private group. I said, Michael Saylor says there's only 21 Bitcoin in 21 years. Each of them will be worth $21 million. But 95% of those are gone. And so here's the challenge, you guys. Right now, there's only 21 million pennies left available. So we have a world of 8 billion people, and we've got 21 million Bitcoin pennies that are available. If I were you, I'd go out and try to figure out how to get one.
No kidding. And that the first step is coming to you, right? Or just visiting the website even.
Yeah, we'd love to share information, love to help them. Obviously, no obligation, but we'll give you as much help as you need to collect as many pennies as you want.
Well, thank you, Jon. I truly appreciate all the thought this week, and we really look forward to hearing what your thoughts are for next week.
Thank you, Story.
Thank you. This has been the Blue Water Crypto Podcast with founder Jon Penkert. Remember, this show is for education and entertainment purposes only. This is not financial advice. Stay informed, stay empowered, and build your confidence in the future of digital assets.